Good afternoon. Welcome to EduSet Network. Friend, this week we have organized series of lecture on sociology, and particular topic is system of kinship. Today we are going to discuss, and there are three dimensions of kinship. One is the structure of kinship, the other is the family, and the one more is the marriage of kinship. And the kinship has played an important role over the years in different society, and we try to understand the kinship in terms of power, religion. So we'll try to understand the interdependence and interrelations between kinship and power, marriage, and etc. And for discussion on this very topic, we have in the studio eminent sociologist Dr. Subhas Mahapatra. He teaches sociology in Delhi University, and he has long experience of teaching, about 30 years of teaching experience in Delhi University on different sociological issues. He has been delivering lecture on different sociological issues on different forum, and participate in debate on the different sociological issue, and written 3 books on sociology. So I think his knowledge and experience will help us to understand this topic and give guidance how to study the system of kinship in a present scenario in a contemporary society. So on your behalf, I welcome him for the EduSet lecture on this very topic. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. It's a great privilege once again to be back into the studio to address to the colleagues and the students, not only within the country, but also outside as well. When this topic was given to me for discussion, I was just amazed for the reason that we live in a globalized world where one is born in India, studying in America, working in France, and in his post-retirement time, one is taking up voluntary services in Africa. The territorial boundaries of the nation states are eroded. Entire humanity is coming together as one. Crisis in one country is giving rise to a sense of concern in the countries located in other parts of the world. In such a situation where man is becoming global, his thinking is becoming cosmic, what is the relevance of discussing kinship? Kinship is a kind of system that tells one is attached to the social group into he is born. A social group that gives him name, identity, right to property, residence, obligations and duties. Therefore, when a society is small, kinship defines the destiny of man. When society is large, heterogeneous, people are mobile, whether in that kind of society kinship plays a significant role or not. Can we consider kinship as an old social institution which is dying out? When people in case of Europe, they judiciously decide not to marry. Marriage is considered as a foundation to kinship. If people don't marry, then imagining kinship system is extremely difficult. When families are turned into households, friends are living together without any cultural and social obligation towards each other. When technology is undertaking reproductive roles, state is addressing to the problems of the people at the time of crisis during old age. In such a situation, is the study of kinship, analysis of kinship, debate and discussions on kinship, they carry any significance or not? So these are the fundamental questions I primarily gathered in my mind when this topic was given to me to discuss and deliberate upon. Let me just first discuss about what is kinship and why is kinship study so significant in the field of anthropology, more so social anthropology and sociology. I'll make an attempt to explain different theories and approaches to kinship, the space of kinship in the field of anthropology and sociology, Then I will be discussing about the interface between kinship and descent, functional rules of kinship, and if time permits, I will be relating kinship theories and methods to understand diversity in India with reference to kinship. Now, first question comes to mind here is that what is kinship? Kinship refers to social recognition of biological ties. There is a basic distinction between man and animal. Animals keep sexual relationship and they reproduce themselves. So are the human beings. But in case of human beings, these biological relationships are explained from a social perspective. A man having sexual relationship with a woman in a legitimate way, going through the process of marriage, is becoming the father of a child, and the woman becomes the mother of the child. Therefore, biological relationship between a man and woman is recognized by the social concepts called as father, mother and child. Therefore, kinship in brief I will be explaining as a social recognition of biological relationship among the people. Man is first born into a family. Therefore, a child's first identity is coming out of family. Whose child the person is? Who are his ancestors? What are his entitlements? And the child is socialized by the family to manifest different kinds of behavior in appropriate social terms. A respect for father, friendly relationship with siblings. So all these kinds of knowledge about interpersonal relationship, one is getting through the process of socialization, he is receiving from the kinship group. And basic unit of the kinship system is the elementary family into which a person is born. So, kinship is giving us identity, recognition, distinction, rights and duties, form of obligation, therefore sociability of a person, who he is, how he is related to others, what are his entitlements, one is primarily getting from kinship. Therefore, kinship study is essential part of understanding smaller societies, mini societies, where technological advancement is not there, organized polity is absent. Most of the people in these societies come together for economic purpose, for political purpose, religious purpose, being interconnected through the network of kinship. If you look into tribal societies, it is kinship that determines the destiny of a person. Therefore, anthropologists are primarily concerned with the study of small communities, simple societies, and the heart and soul of these simple societies are kinship. So, kinship study is a fundamental aspect, essential part of anthropological discourse. Most of the anthropologists, when they take interest in kinship study, they use different kinds of theories, use different kinds of methods, use different kinds of paradigms to understand the significance of kinship. You know, the first person who took interest in kinship study is Louis Henry Morgan. Morgan studied an American tribe known as Iroquois, and he found out that in Iroquois society, the terms of reference people use is so greatly different from the other American culture, mainstream American culture. So he was curious that why these kinship terms of Iroquois tribe is so different from other Americans, and he made a study on that. On the basis of his inquiry, he come forward with the conclusion that kinship is going through the process of evolution the way technology is subjected to evolution. He concludes by saying that man in the state of nature, savage society, was living in a state of promiscuity, where sexual freedom was granted to everybody. Nobody was a father, nobody was a mother, nobody was a child, sexual freedom was present. But with the evolution of society, growth of society, first kinship system got stabilized. Marriage came into prominence. Rule of incest was introduced. Rule of incest is the first kind of rule that brings in the growth of civilization. Property rules never came first. Rule to control sexuality first came into prominence. That is what is known as rule of incest. Rule of incest indicates that primary kin should not be having sexual relationship with each other. Since mother gives birth to a child, so first relationship sexual to be tabooed was mother-son relationship. Then it was extended to father-daughter relationship. Then it got extended to sibling relationship. So once that sexual rules of sexuality or incest rules came into prominence, then there is a stability to family. And family is considered as the cornerstone of society. Therefore, kinship as a system of arrangement, integrating people together, starts with the rules of marriage established in human history. Therefore, Morgan goes on to say that man in savage society was promiscuous. When the rules of marriage came into prominence, marriage was stabilized as an institution, and because of the stability of marriage, polygamy came into prominence. From promiscuity that is present in savage society, we are going for barbarian society where group marriage is taking place. A group of men are marrying to a group of women. Then finally, when civilization takes place, technology develops, agriculture, trade, permanent settlement, organized state. When all these institutions develop, property becomes important. It is transmitted from one generation to another generation. Then from group marriage, people go for monogamy. Therefore, kinship is moving from promiscuity to monogamous system. And he is using two kinds of terms to explain kinship. He is giving more importance on kinship terms. He is saying that more a society is primitive, classificatory terms are more frequent there. Classificatory terms of kinship refers to a series of relatives are clubbed up together and they are addressed in a single term. In modern society, descriptive terms are frequent. One person, one relative is addressed in one term. Therefore, descriptive kinship terminology is frequent in modern society and classificatory kinship terms are present in case of traditional societies. He went to the extent of analyzing kinship terms are not just nomenclatures, they are not just terms, linguistic idioms. Rather, on the basis of kinship terms, we can look into the actual form of social relationship with each other. If one is addressing somebody as father, it is not just a term. Hidden within the term, it is spelled out that the person is a biological and social partner to the person. And at the same time, being a father, one is commanding respect. He is having duties towards child. Therefore, take kinship term as the founding indicator to explain social relationship, cultural relationship, political, juridical relationship among the people. Therefore, Morgan's approach to kinship is a biological approach, terminological approach that gives importance on kinship terms and explaining. By studying kinship terminology, nomenclature, we can have a larger vision of the society. This view of kinship, that study kinship system with reference to kinship term, is subsequently questioned by A.R. Radcliffe Brown. Radcliffe Brown develops structure functional approach to kinship, and many scholars consider this approach as decent approach to kinship. He tells kinship is having a definite structure. The way society is also having various other kinds of structures like economic structure, political structure, religious structure. Kinship is having a definite structure, and the structure of kinship is founded on kin roles. Therefore, terms are not important, actual roles are important, kin roles are important. So, there are varieties of kinship roles. We can be classifying these kin roles into primary roles, secondary roles, tertiary roles. When somebody is addressing a person as father, it is not just a term. Attached to this term, a series of culturally defined rules and obligations. So, when somebody is father, he has to play fatherly roles towards the child. But that person is not father to everybody, he is also a husband. Therefore, a person holding a position in the kinship system is supposed to play multiple kinds of roles as defined by the cultural and social system of the society. Therefore, Radcliffe Brown tells that kinship structure is a part of social structure. Therefore, social values, social norms are applied to the members who are a part of the kinship structure and holding different positions in the kinship structure. And kin roles do not frequently change. Kin roles are subjected to continuity. Thus, one would notice husband-wife relationship, father-child relationship, brother-sister relationship, they are subjected to continuity. On the basis of the prescriptions of society and culture, kin roles are defined, designed and manifested. He advocates that one should go for comparative study of kinship. Structure of kinship may be variable from one society to another society. For example, in Chinese society, people remember the descent link till 10th generation. In village India, people establish their kinship linkage till 7th generation. In many African tribes, people remember their kinship descent linkage till primarily 21st generation. Therefore, who are a part of kinship and who are not? Who are the primary kins in one society, who are secondary kins, same relatives, secondary kins in another society? To make sense of that, we have to collect empirical data on kinship. We must have to compare one kinship structure with another kinship structure. Look into the similarities and differences among them. And on the basis of that, we can develop a form of generalization. Therefore, kinship study should not be assumptive, presumptive, speculative. Rather, it should be empirical and comparative. Radcliffe Brown collects data from different societies, and on the basis of that, he looks into the structure of kinship and functions of kinship. He finds out that despite the visible differences in kinship structure, the core elements of all the kinship structures are found to be identical. He calls them as the structural principle of kinship. What are structural principle of kinship? The principles of kinship which are present in every society cutting across time and history. In every kinship structure, number one, he finds out there is solidarity present among the members of the sibling group. Who are siblings? Brothers and sisters belonging to common parents are siblings. But in every society, the siblings may not be addressed in same tone, but at the same time, sibling relationship is more or less similar in every society. Therefore, study kinship system not as a terminological system, study kinship system as a relational system. Take for example, in case of some tribes of Africa, brothers and sisters belonging to same parents, they share strong sense of unity among themselves. And this unity among the brothers and sisters belonging to common parents is manifested in terms of terminology. If you look into Maasai tribe, you find out that children of a man address to man's sister as female father. You know, female father here means she is eligible to get the respect that one offers to his own father. Therefore, terms talks about proximity, relationship talks about proximity. But in case of northern India, one is, not addressing father's sister as primarily female father. People call her as Phupi, some people call as auntie. But terms and relationship do not correspond with each other. Therefore, relationship is universal, terms may be different. Therefore, first structural principle Radcliffe Brown speaks about is solidarity among the members of the sibling group. Then he talks about second structural principle, that bringing collaterals into common fold. Collaterals are the linked relationships. Like mother's brother is a collateral relationship. Father's brother is collateral relation. Collateral means you are establishing linkage with somebody to explain the proximity of that person to yourself. In every society, kinship terms are amended, adjusted. And on the basis of that, a distant relationship is becoming converted into or becoming a primary relationship. For example, in many society, father's brother may be addressed as junior father. By adjusting this terminology, one talks about proximity. So, collaterals are coming close to ego. Though they are distant relations, they are coming close to ego or self. If my wife's brother is somebody important, I go for terminological merging, addressing that person as wife's brother, so that I become close to him, receive services and different kinds of benefits from him. So, in every kinship structure, there is an urgency, there is a need, there is a functional necessity to convert distant kins into close kins, so that we can be engaged in economic, political, social reciprocation with each other. So, that happens in every society. Therefore, bringing collaterals into a common fold is a structural principle. Similarly, there is a unity within the lineage group. For instance, if somebody is going to mother's group is so integrated that all the relations, those who are close to mother, if they are men belonging to mother's generation, we call them as maternal uncle, Mausa. We call them as mama. Similarly, all women belonging to mother's generation living in that group are identified in appropriate terms. Either Mausi we can call them as, or we can call them as Mami. So, in that context, because the group is unified, we develop a kind of proximity with the members of the group keeping mother at the center. Similarly, with the father's group, a child is identified as father's child. Therefore, one will be addressing so many people as chacha, so many people as chachi, and so on, bua, so on. So, this manifests how within the lineage group there is a kind of integration among the people, and that integration is compelling me to adjust my kinship terms to explain my proximity towards the group. Therefore, three structural principles we have discussed. One, solidarity among the member of the sibling group. Second, bringing collaterals into single fold. Third, the principle of lineage integration. In many societies, one will be finding out alternate generations, they maintain a distance. Alternate generation means grandparents' generation and grandchildren's generation. There is a huge gap between these two generations. To explain proximity between these two generations, in many societies, terminological mergings take place. Through this terminological merging, for example, grandfather. If somebody tells he is my grandfather in American society or European society, the obligation of a child towards grandfather is not very significant. But if grandfather is addressed as elder father, then child is having a responsibility towards his grandfather as he is having duties and responsibilities towards his father. So, therefore, in many society, alternate generations are coming close to each other by paying respect to joking relationship or by merging the terms. But in every society, these two alternate generations are manifesting some kind of proximity. And finally, in every society, kinship relationship is defined respecting to sex and seniority, structural principle of sex and seniority. In our families, you must be finding out that eldest child, if a boy will be close to father's brother, because age gap between the eldest child and father's youngest brother is not very significant. Similarly, if the girl is eldest and father is having a youngest sister, so youngest sister and eldest daughter of a person will be extremely close to each other. Also identically, one finds out that in Indian society, father's elder brother is addressed as Tau. Tau symbolizes respect, devotion, whereas father's younger brother is known as Chacha. Here respectability is not high, but proximity is high, intimacy is high. So, thus in every society we find out on the basis of sex, on the basis of seniority, kinship terms are adjusted, and on the basis of that duties, obligations, respects are clearly spelled out. So, A. R. Radcliffe Brown tells, despite variations in kinship roles, appearance of kinship structure, in every society certain common roles are assigned to kinship. Therefore, one should go for the study of kinship from comparative perspective, looking into the functions of kinship, structural similarities and differences, and don't explain kinship from evolutionary perspective, judgmental perspective and terminological perspective. Therefore, Morgan initiated the study of kinship, but A. R. Radcliffe Brown talked about how sociology, social anthropology will make an attempt to study kinship. Thereafter, kinship as a part of social structure, the whole idea, it's somehow amended by Mayor Fortes. Mayor Fortes advocates that in every society, kinship is structured in an exclusive way. Roles assigned to kinship is unique. Therefore, instead of going for comparison of kinship study, one should look into the structural role of kinship in a given society. So, kinship is assigned some kind of role by the society. Therefore, social organization of a society is grounded on kinship, because once a person is born into a kinship group, he has got entitlement right over property. Take the case of India. Few years down the line, we didn't have, as a patriarchal system, property right extended to women. Therefore, women or girls were socialized in a different way as against the boys. Their entitlements are different, socialization is different, religious roles are different, were different. And kinship system, grounded by societal norms and values, were defining the boy's role different from the girl's role. So, therefore, through kinship, we understand the entire social organization. How are people recruited into the kinship system? How are they socialized to undertake different kinds of roles? How their duties and obligations are spelled out. So, therefore, kinship is having a network of relationship that is explained to larger social organization. So, therefore, to study society, we must have to study kinship, structural approach. So, we have now three different dimensions to the study of kinship given by three distinguished sociologists. Another important explanation to kinship is given by Levi-Strauss. Levi-Strauss tells that kinship should not be studied in terms of terminology, as a structure present within the social structure of society. It should not be studied as centrality to social organization. That the kinship should be studied with reference to marriage and alliance. Kinship cannot be studied without marriage. And marriage recruits people to kinship system, telling them about their alliance with each other. Therefore, rules of marriage are very important to ascertain. Marriage is not a relationship between two persons. Marriage brings in two different groups closer to each other, specifying a person's role towards the members of the other group in which he is getting married, in which he is primarily marrying into. So, therefore, Levi-Strauss tells that through marriage, a girl is recruited to her husband's group as daughter-in-law to somebody, wife to somebody, mother to somebody. Similarly, through marriage, a boy is recruited into the girl's group either as son-in-law or as a co-brother, and on the basis of this recruitment, they are playing their roles as spelled out by the culture and society. Therefore, kinship is grounded on marriage. It is a form of alliance among individuals with other individuals. Therefore, kinship need to be studied from alliance perspective. And when we speak about alliance, marriage is a relationship between two persons. Alliance is driven by rules, and alliance is talking about the relationship between two groups. Therefore, Levi-Strauss' understanding of kinship is opening up the space for analyzing kinship in a different way than from structure functional perspective, than from evolutionary perspective. Nowadays, kinship is relooked by the feminist scholars, and most of the feminist scholars find out whether it is marriage or it is family or it is kinship system, all are the products of patriarchal culture. They control the sexuality of a woman. They limit the entitlement right of a woman, reducing woman in a reproductive agents. Therefore, kinship study is greatly ignoring in anthropology and sociology the concern of women, the problems of women, and how women are greatly subjected to different kinds of discrimination. Therefore, there is an urgency to study kinship through feminist lens. And also, kinship study is given importance on social structure itself. So, these approaches to the study of kinship tells that kinship is an important institution to live in, to have in social life, but at the same time, how to study kinship, how to analyze kinship, how to look into relevance of kinship, how to explain the changing nature of kinship. When I speak about kinship, these are all approaches to the study of kinship. Now, let me get into, certain kind of terms we are explaining in kinship, then I will be getting into how kinship is different from descent system and how descent system is taken into consideration by the anthropologist and sociologist to give us a broad explanation of kinship. When we speak about kinship, kinship includes three kinds of relationships. First kind of relationship is affinal relationship. Relationship coming out of marriage. Suppose husband-wife relationship is an affinal relationship. Then every kinship system one would be noticing affinal relationship present. Second kind of relationship in kinship is consanguine relationship. Means relationship defined on the basis of blood. Consanguine means blood relationship. Father's relationship with son is consanguine relationship. Therefore, kinship is a system where blood relatives are present and relative on the basis of marriage are also present. Another dimension to kinship is the relations based upon adoption. An adopted child is also a part of the kinship group. Though he is not born to the parents, but he is getting social recognition to be the child of the parents. So, therefore, relationship on the basis of affinity, consanguinity, adoption combinedly together make kinship possible. We can also talk about three kinds of kinship relationships: real kinship relationship, fictive kinship relationship, and putative kinship relationship. Real kinship relationship is coming out of affinity and consanguinity. A biological father is a social father. His relationship with his own child or offspring is real kinship relationship. Putative kinship relationship is a ritual relationship, which is very common in case of India. Or if it is not ritual relationship, it is a product of actual social relationship. Suppose a neighborhood person who is very close to the family, helping the members of the family out of love, out of respect, out of recognition to his services, we address to that person as uncle. He is not father's brother, he is not mother's brother, but still he is uncle and getting respect from the children as they are paying respect to their real uncle. Putative kinship. Fictive kinship is one where everybody knows there is no kinship ties between them. But to strengthen the relationship, to make relationship effective, one may be using some kinship terms to develop proximity between him and the person concerned, or between his group and the ego's group. In village communities of India, there is Jajmani relationship present. A barber is serving a Brahmin's family, and a Brahmin's child is addressing to the barber as uncle. This is not real kinship term. This is not putative kinship term. Rather, this is fictive kinship term. Therefore, using these kinship terms, we bridge the gap and come closer to each other to develop an enduring functional relationship with each other. Therefore, kinship plays a very, very significant role in stabilizing social relationship, organizing social relationship and making social relationship effective and productive. Therefore, we find out within kinship there are relationships present on the basis of affinity, on the basis of consanguinity, on the basis of adoption. And kinship relationship may be full kinship relationship or part kinship relationship. Part kinship relationships are step relationships. Go to America today, go to Europe, you find out most of the kinship relationships are half kinship relationships. But in case of India, half kinship relationships are scanty and full kinship relationship is greatly present. So, when you speak about kinship system, we have to know about approaches to kinship system. We have to know about the essentiality of kinship system. Now, the problem comes here is that why kinship system sustained for such a prolonged period of time in human history? The answer is very simple. When man is born into a family, he is born out of sexual relationship between two persons. It is to be identified first who is what to that person. Therefore, kinship always gives a kind of identity to man. Who is that person? Whom he is born. Therefore, without kinship, you cannot have social formation. And that kinship system is undertaking certain kind of roles. Primary role of kinship, I would be saying, is who are the insiders and who are the outsiders. You know, if a body of people belonging to a kinship group, they go for inclusion excluding others, those who are not a part of the kinship group. And kinship defines whom one can marry and whom one should not. Primary kins cannot marry with each other. Therefore, rules of marriage is also defined on the basis of kinship. Therefore, kinship gives us identity. Kinship tells us who are insiders and who are outsiders, and kinship regulates marriage. In many societies, people worship to their dead ancestors. In India, we call this a Shraddha ceremony, offering rituals to the spirits of the dead. So now, religious role of a person to whom he should be primarily performing rituals for, ritual roles, religious roles are also defined by kinship. After marriage, who should live with whom is also defined by kinship. Who should be inheriting whose property? Who should be succeeding to whose office? All are defined by kinship. Therefore, kinship defines our political role, economic role, religious role, residential pattern, inheritance system, succession pattern, and kinship makes a distinction between insiders and outsiders. Therefore, kinship is not a part of society. In small societies, tribal communities, agrarian peasant societies, kinship defines society itself. Therefore, anthropologists, more so social and cultural anthropologists, were looking into simple societies with reference to kinship. A beautiful analysis about the political role of kinship is given by Evans Pritchard. He studied Newer tribe, kinship system of Newer. He found out that Newer is not having a centralized system of government. But when there is an external threat, people belonging to a primary kinship group, secondary kinship group or tertiary kinship group, they come together and fight war against their enemies. Therefore, kinship groups are evolving into political bodies as and when there is a necessity for it. Therefore, time changes, role of kinship is also changing. Therefore, one cannot say that kinship is centrality to traditional societies and the role of kinship becomes insignificant with the rise of civilization, growth of technology, expansion of modernity. In many public forums, I used to say, that kinship keeps changing its role with the changing times. And this is so applicable to India. You look at Khap Panchayat operating in case of India. Khap Panchayat is an assumptive form of kinship. When invaders used to come from outside, people living in a particular territorial part, they were conceptualizing themselves as the members of the same clan. And being the members of the same clan, they assume, which may or may not be true, that they are siblings to each other or brothers and sisters to each other. On the basis of that, they discipline and regulate their marriage. So therefore, kinship is assuming new kind of roles today. And in many situations, old rules of kinship are coercively extended to the people living in modern society, those who are supposed to be guided by contemporary rules of law. So, old institutions are not dying out in case of India, and so is the institution called as kinship. In India, we are using a term called as khandan. That is also a part of the larger kinship system. And one is supposed to manifest behavior, keeping in mind the respectability, tradition of that particular khandan or lineage group. And also one finds out the bigger role of kinship. People come from the villages, identify their distant relatives in the city, stay with them, take their help to get into a job. Therefore, very many times people are dependent on kinship to get a newfound identity than being dependent on the state and government. Also, we find out in case of contemporary India, there is a social reproduction of kinship in the domain of occupation. You know, at times I feel that when India was driven by caste, people belonging to a particular caste were undertaking a given kind of occupation. And that occupation was transmitted from father's generation to son's generation to grandson's generation, stabilizing kinship and developing a strong interface between caste and kinship in India. But in today's context, one also finds out most of the politicians do come from political families. Most of the industrialists are coming from industrial families. Most of the cinema stars are coming from the cinema stars families. So there is a reproduction of occupation taking place in case of India in the line of kinship. Therefore, we cannot wish away, we cannot primarily put kinship under the cover saying that modern society is a person-centric society, achieving society, goal-oriented society, for which kinship based upon heredity is absolutely becoming an obsolete institution. Therefore, time changes. Corresponding to changing times, the roles undertaken by the traditional institutions are taking new forms. This is not happening only in case of India. Even in the societies where family is collapsing, marriage is no longer present, there are also, mild kinship ties are determining the person's stake for future life. If a person is born to a right kind of kinship group, which is affluent, politically visible, then members belonging to the same kinship group take the advantage, political advantage, social advantage from that kinship group to grow bigger in life. So, in this context, I will be saying that traditional role of kinship may not be identical to contemporary role of kinship, but I will not be agreeing on the fact that kinship as a system is dying out slowly as against the growth of individualism, personal success in case of modern society. When I am speaking on kinship, I must have to make distinction between lineage, clan and kinship. And one should be remembering this, that centrality to kinship is marriage, that gives rise to family, different families are interlocked together to give rise to a kinship system. To put that in simple terms, my own family, my brothers and sisters' families, families of my wife's brothers and sisters, families of my father's brothers and sisters, mother's brothers and sisters, when all of them are connected together, they make kinship. It's up to us to remember, use the kinship network in a smaller proportion or larger proportion. In case of India today, it is being seen. Children are more close to mother side relatives than father side relatives. So therefore, one part of the kinship group is becoming more functional as against another part of the kinship group. Therefore, kinship is not dying out. The kind of kinship formation we are making, interconnectivity we are developing, dependency we are developing, that is changing. Entire system of kinship is not changing. But one can say, we were a part of larger kinship system. Look into Kauravas, look into Pandavas. During their time, kinship system was very large. But in our times, kinship system is connecting few families on the basis of necessity, on the basis of requirement. Therefore, structural character of kinship is changing. Multiple functions given to kinship in past, now narrowed down to selective functions, but kinship is still persistent in case of every society, whether east or west. But intensive role played by kinship is no longer found out in European society. Many sociologists look at kinship system with reference to descent. When I speak about descent, I have to make a distinction between clan and descent. Clan refers to a situation where a person is assuming, online assuming, that he has descended from a common stock, but he cannot establish direct connectivity with that source of origin. For example, in Ramayana it is spelled out, Ram was born into Surya Vans. So, Surya Vans means Surya is imaginative. From Surya who came, and from whom, after whom who other person came, and ultimately how Ram belongs to that particular lineage, clan is not established. So therefore, clan is based upon imaginary identity. Similarly, in case of India, people believe they belong to different gotras. Some people say we belong to Kashyap Gotra, Vasisht Gotra, Bharadwaj Gotra, but direct connectivity with these founding rishis cannot be established. That is clan. But people belonging to a particular clan, they don't marry. So therefore, what I find out here is that kinship still regulates marriage. In many situations, if boy belongs to the gotra that girl belongs to, instead of boy's father or girl's father, some of their kinship relationship is primarily officiating marriage. That's taking place in some parts of the country. In other parts of the country, this is considered as the violation to basic rules of marriage. Khap Panchayat is coming into prominence, punishing to the people going for this kind of marriage. Therefore, kinship is still present and regulating the rules of marriage among the people. So, clan is based upon imagination that we belong to this and this stock. In many parts of the country, lower caste, they trace their origin from tikam, teak tree, gold, silver and different kinds of animals. So, some anthropologists consider this kind of connectivity among the people with totem or with clan is talking about man's affinity with nature. But whatever that may be, kinship is primarily binding people together, giving them an identity, sense of inclusion and exclusion and directing their everyday roles. And lineage, to its contrast, is talking about one's actual blood relationship with specific bodies of people. When I say Ram belonged to Raghu Vans or Raghu Kul, I would be saying here Ram's father was Dasarath, his father was Aja, Aja's father was Raghu. So connectivity is clearly established. Therefore, lineage talks about actual relationship between a person and the founder of that group. But if you go for imagination, that is clan. Therefore, within a clan, there may be multiple lineage groups. Within a particular lineage group, there may be so many families. And within every family, there are different kinds of marriages involving the people. Therefore, marriage, family, lineage group, clan, all these things cooked up together, integrated together, constitute kinship. Size of the kinship may be large, size of the kinship may be small. Centrality to every kinship is lineage system. And in sociology, we divide lineage system into two types. One is unilineal system and second is non-unilineal system. Unilineal system is one where we connect ourselves to one particular originator of the group. If the founder of the group or the originator of the group is a man, then our lineage system is patrilineage system. Pater means father. We are connected to a man who is the founder of the group, therefore our lineage system is patrilineal system. Opposite to that is matrilineage system. If the foundress of the group is a woman and we get connected to that, it is a matrilineal system. Therefore, one sex connectivity in patrilineal system, same one sex connectivity in matrilineal system, call that system as unilineal system. To its contrast, there is a non-unilineal system, where for some purpose we receive something from the father, other purpose we receive something from mother. That is known as double descent system or bilateral system. If we get multiple things, name, property, rights to ritual from multiple groups, that is known as multilineal system or cognitive system. Therefore, multilineal system and bilineal system combinedly together are known as non-unilineal system. Patrilineal system and matrilineal system are known as unilineal system.
Okay. So, well friend, this was the structure of kinship we discussed today. Tomorrow we will discuss another dimension, family, and the other dimension in marriage. We will talk about these things in the coming lectures. I think today we have been able to communicate with the basic concept and basic meaning of the kinship and how it has been significant in different societies. So, with this word we conclude the lecture. I thank all of you for watching the lecture, and on behalf I thank Dr. Subhas Mahapatra for giving such a insightful lecture on this very topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.